When the emperor inquired whether the top scholar had any plans for marriage, he replied that he remained unwed. Neither the emperor nor I noticed the flicker of hatred reflected in his gaze as he expressed his gratitude and received the imperial decree. After our union, he ascended the ranks with the influence of the princess, attaining the status of a powerful minister. When the Prince of Jiang staged a rebellion, he surrounded the princess's residence, unveiling the truth. He had a wife who had endured hardship for his sake, but upon learning that he had received the princess's fragrant sachet while parading on horseback, she took her own life in despair. He harbored all his grievances against me. I was tormented to death by his relentless cruelty. Yet when I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the moment when the top scholar was parading on horseback. Our eyes met, and in that instant, I realized he had returned as well. 01. A searing pain engulfed my mind, abruptly jolting me from the suffocating darkness. Upon focusing my gaze, I locked eyes with the resplendent Du Ziying, the top scholar, who sat majestically atop his steed amidst the crowd. I knew he had returned. The simmering hatred reflected in my eyes conveyed the message. I, too, had returned. In my previous life, that beast had endured in silence for many years, only to rise to power in a single moment. He bound my hands and feet, using a knife soaked in chili oil to slice through my skin, then smeared honey onto the wounds. I wept in a frenzy, begging him for a swift end. He lifted my chin, his laughter ringing with cruel delight. My poor Lianer, after your death, I feared her sacrifice would be in vain, and I dreaded to claim her body. She slipped away quietly, while you bask in the adoration of the masses. This time, I shall make you taste her suffering. Ants, drawn by the sweet scent of honey, will crawl all over you, burrowing through your wounds to feast upon your flesh. The sensation will be a blend of numbness and agony. As the wounds fester and ooze, maggots will slowly emerge, writhing within you. No matter how much you scream and wail, no one will heed your cries. In the dark, you will rot and stink, transforming from a living being into a decaying corpse. Just as he had described, I struggled frantically. Yet, with my tongue severed, teeth shattered, and limbs bound, even the desire for death was a luxury I could not afford. Hatred and pain roared within me, unrestrained and unyielding. I sat in the upper levels of the tavern, gazing through the window at him below on horseback. A smile curled at the corners of my crimson lips as I clasped my hand around my throat, mimicking the act of strangulation. I beamed at the change that swept across his face. Ignoring the slow-moving procession, he hastily galloped away. The palace maid, Bai Yao, inquired with confusion, "Your Highness, where is the scholar in such a hurry to go?" I leisurely toyed with the jade pendant at my waist, malice glimmering in my eyes. Perhaps he is off to see his fragile wife. As I observed his panicked retreat, a mocking expression spread across my face. Du Ziying, the enmity from my past life. This time, we will settle the score slowly. Upon hearing my words, Bai Yao's expression flickered with disappointment, and I noted every detail. I casually inquired, "Who is in charge of my fragrant sachet?" Bai Yao respectfully produced the sachet, stating, "Princess, you once mentioned your disdain for this pattern." Thus I took the liberty of safeguarding it. Without warning, I smashed the teacup in my hand onto the ground. "Your Highness, please quell your anger." Everyone accompanying me fell to their knees. Bai Yao, closest to me, knelt on the shards, blood staining her garments, yet she bit her lip, refusing to utter a sound. I gazed upon Bai Yao from my past life, and it dawned upon me. She had secretly delivered the sachet to Du Ziying under the guise of my title as the Long Princess. No wonder I had no recollection of the sachet. She had developed feelings for the scholar, and had clandestinely sought to facilitate their union, hoping to gain more opportunities to be near him as my trusted maid. 2. In my previous life, her desires had indeed come to fruition, thanks to her machinations. It was not until the military surrounded the princess's residence that I became aware of Du Ziying's treachery. During the torment I endured at his hands, she appeared before me, adorned in jewels, having become Du Ziying's newly accepted concubine Bai Yao. She lifted my chin with her toes. "Oh, my poor Long Princess, how is it that you find yourself in such a wretched state? Why not summon someone to attend to your needs?" She feigned surprise, tapping her forehead lightly. "Oh, how forgetful of me. The Long Princess has long since perished. Once a radiant beauty of great wealth and prestige, look at how pitifully you have fallen. imprisoned, and at the mercy of others.
Ah.
She crushed my palm beneath her foot until it bled profusely. What do those disrespectful eyes of yours mean? Mark my words, I am the master now, and you are but a servant. Her arrogant demeanor was etched into my memory, starkly contrasting with the fearful expression she wore now. I smiled.
Slap.
I struck her across the face with such force that she toppled over. What crime have you committed to dare serve me cold tea? In truth, the tea was at the perfect temperature, neither too hot nor too cold. Yet I recalled the pain of having my tongue severed after I had insulted her as a lowly servant in my previous life. Such a treacherous servant must be taught a lesson, so she would understand the distinction between master and servant. She begged fervently, bowing her head and pleading for mercy, hoping to exchange her punishment at the Ministry of Justice for my compassion. Her forehead bled, her knees and palms embedded in the shards, but she dared not cease. The Ministry of Justice was a place where one would not return unscathed. Torture, snake pits, the severing of fingers, the gouging of eyes. I believed that there she would learn the true essence of servitude. I granted her mercy, and she was dragged away. I entered the palace to see my imperial brother, only to discover that Du Ziying had arrived even faster than I. Observing his breathless state, it seemed he had rushed home to pen a letter to his distant wife before hastening to meet the emperor. I sat comfortably in my palanquin as he struggled outside the palace, adjusting his disheveled attire in anticipation of being summoned. His gaze towards me was fierce and cold. Xiaohua, in my past life, you caused the death of my wife, Li Lianer. This time, I shall protect her at all costs, and you shall not interfere. His eyes scanned my side, then furrowed in confusion. Where has Bai Yao, who has always attended to you, gone? His expression grew menacing, as if to extract a confession. In my previous life, he had succeeded in assisting the king of Jiang in a rebellion, donning an official's robe that radiated authority, looking down upon me as I lay prostrate. Yet now, he merely bore the title of top scholar. It seemed he had only just been reborn and had yet to regain his senses. Who gave him the audacity to speak to the Long Princess in such a manner? Someone make him speak. How dare you? In the presence of the emperor, you presume to act so brazenly toward the newly appointed scholar? Do you not respect the law?
Du Ziying struggled.
My people only heed my commands, and they forced him to kneel, administering slaps to his face from both sides. I descended from my palanquin, observing his swollen visage, and I couldn't help but smirk. The audacity lies with you. You are but a mere scholar. Yet you dare to stand before the Long Princess without bowing or showing respect, and even threaten me in front of the emperor. I am the sovereign, and you are the subject. Rewards and punishments are all gifts from me, so receive well the few slaps I have bestowed upon you. Do not err again in such a manner. I swept away my sleeve, leaving him with the chilling gaze of a viper until I entered the grand hall. 3. I was unconcerned. He was still inconsequential, even needing to await his summons to meet the emperor. I intended to exploit his weakness, unrelentingly suppressing him until he was forever mired in the quagmire of despair. What a commotion outside. Has the newly appointed scholar offended you in some way? I recognized the familiar figure at the desk reviewing documents, my eyes watering as I suppressed my tears. My imperial brother, noticing my silence, looked up and, upon seeing the tears at the corners of my eyes, became flustered and hurriedly inquired, "Why are you crying?" "It's all right, it was just a few slaps. Right in front of my palace. If I truly wished to intervene, I could have sent Fushun." My brother's face turned pale. "I initially thought to inquire about Du Ziying's family, perhaps to find you a suitable match if he was unencumbered. Has he truly provoked your ire?" The tone indicated he wished to discipline Du Ziying. I managed to smile through my tears, warmth flooding my heart. This was indeed my beloved imperial brother. We shared the same mother, and after her passing, he had shown me compassion, lavishing me with affection. In my previous life, under the guise of his affection, Du Ziying had ascended to great heights, soaring effortlessly. He indeed possesses considerable strength. First, he overthrew the prime minister's residence and became the confidant of my elder brother. Subsequently, he covertly allied himself with the king of Jiang, exploiting my brother's trust to shield the king from scrutiny. Alas, both my brother and I fell victim to misplaced trust in others. As a sovereign, he met a humiliating fate, publicly beheaded by the king of Jiang, his severed head displayed upon the city wall. In this lifetime, I shall not permit such a tragic conclusion to unfold. I glanced at the memorial my brother had been reviewing. Brother, are you still troubled by affairs of the court? My brother sighed deeply. The Prime Minister wields significant influence in the court, with half the officials being his former students. Recently, our spies reported that he has been in contact with the King of Jiang. While the king is indeed burdened with defending the borders, his control over the majority of military power leaves me restless. Should they unite, it would pose a grave threat. How can I not be concerned? I smiled calmly. Brother, why fret? Do you believe I could topple these two formidable mountains with but a single piece? Oh, what clever stratagem do you possess, Xiaohua? I spoke with confidence. I wish to request a decree for marriage from you, and the intended bride shall be none other than the newly appointed top scholar, Du Ziying. Upon being summoned by my brother, Du Ziying's gaze flickered with disdain when he learned of the proposed marriage. He opened his mouth to refuse, but I interjected, sighing dramatically. It seems that Biao's affections for the top scholar are destined to be unrequited. Du Ziying's objection was effectively silenced. Noticing his hesitation, I felt a sense of derision. Greed can lead one to overreach. In my past life, Biao had boasted to me that her resemblance to Li Lianer endeared her to Du Ziying. In his eyes, Biao had already become his woman. The audacity of questioning my beloved Biao's whereabouts seemed to indicate that Du Ziying held some genuine concern for her. I sought to ascertain Biao's standing in his heart. I continued, though Biao hails from humble beginnings, she has served beside me and represents my dignity. The top scholar is but a man of modest means. If he were to take her as a concubine, I would be unwilling. I wonder what status the top scholar would offer to marry Biao? After a prolonged silence, Du Ziying finally leaned in, stating, I am already married to a wife from my hometown. I would never abandon my first spouse. Just as my brother regarded me with a look of incredulity, Du Ziying added, I would be willing to take Miss Biao as a primary wife. I humbly request your blessing, Your Majesty. My brother, oblivious to the underlying tensions, was taken aback. He then regarded Du Ziying with a hint of disdain, perceiving him as a sycophant masquerading as a nobleman. I toyed with the fragrant pouch in my hand, amused as I watched him express his gratitude to my brother. In my previous life, Biao had indeed possessed some skill, ensnaring the top scholar into agreeing to marry her as a primary wife. It is delightful to witness such torment. It only intensifies the pain. I led him to the Department of Punishments to meet the pitiful creature he cherished. Pointing to the bloodied figure in the dungeon, I joyfully said to Du Ziying, the top scholar should hasten to greet his new bride. Biao extended her bloodied hand towards Du Ziying, pleading for salvation. Save me, please. Help. The stench of blood and decay assaulted Du Ziying's senses, leaving him incredulous that the wretched being before him was the same gentle flower he once cradled. His face turned as pale as parchment, and he retched violently. Get away. Don't come near me.
Go.
Terrified, he fled in a panic, but beneath the imperial decree. This was the primary wife he had sought. He could not escape. Word reached me that he was haunted by nightmares, followed by a severe illness. I was thoroughly satisfied with this outcome. I then had Biao's corpse cremated, sending the ashes to the top scholar's residence along with a message. I anticipate that this marriage banquet will proceed smoothly. Upon receiving the news, Du Ziying clutched the urn and spat blood, fainting from the shock. Before Li Lianer could even enter the capital, Du Ziying fell ill in bed once more. To ensure the banquet unfolded normally, I, as the orchestrator, could not avoid putting in extra effort, dispatching numerous aides to assist. I compelled Du Ziying to don his wedding attire, pressing his head down before the assembled officials. I sat upon the dais, smiling as I accepted his 3 bows, watching him and the urn of ashes beside him consummate this union. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging from his temples, and a storm of hatred brewed within his gaze. His words escaped through clenched teeth, as if he wished to gnaw at my flesh. Xiaohua, cherish these days well. Your time to flaunt your power is limited. I raised an eyebrow. Seize him. Beat him. In no time, Du Ziying's face, which had only just recovered, swelled grotesquely. I sighed and shook my head. Hadn't I just instructed you on this? As a minister, one must maintain a humble demeanor. Why have you not learned your lesson? My disdain for Du Ziying was unmasked, dissuading the officials from seeking to curry favor with this top scholar. Although Du Ziying was young and had achieved great success, The favor bestowed upon the eldest princess had endured for a decade without waning. Who would dare offend the eldest princess for the sake of a man of humble origins? A few officials had presented me with petitions, but all were suppressed by my brother. The officials, having made their choice, said nothing further on the matter. Thus, this incident was brushed aside with little consequence. Du Ziying had intended to endure, using this event to undermine me, yet he could not even meet the emperor's gaze. The political arena thrives on the principle of elevating some while suppressing others. Everyone watched with cold indifference, offering him no support. As the rain poured down, he grit his teeth and knelt at the palace gates. My palanquin passed by him, while the eunuch, who had repeatedly rebuffed him, smiled like a blooming flower, guiding my way. "Your Highness, why come to the palace in such dreadful weather? Do take care not to catch a chill and worry the emperor." I casually tossed a hairpin to the eunuch, and as the maidservants held umbrellas for me, I paused beside him. "Did not Minister Du intend to punish me? I have grown weary of waiting. Why has no one come to strike me down yet?" Du Ziying's brow, dampened by the rain, appeared cold and oppressive. "Princess, in my previous life, I ascended to the position of Prime Minister through sheer merit, climbing from humble origins to a place above countless others. This time, with my prior experiences and foresight of the future, I shall tread an even higher and smoother path. While you, merely favored by the emperor, indulge in tyranny here in the capital, royal favor will eventually wane. Your oppression of me only accelerates that process. A phoenix that has fallen to the ground is no better than a chicken. Who is to say who will win or lose?" He threatened me, his laughter low and ominous. He is reborn, aware of future events. Does he think I am oblivious? I looked down upon him, noticing his clenched fists within his sleeves. His current state of mind was far from the rational facade he presented. My humiliation had taken effect. It was time for him to act. Indeed, just days later, my informant within Du Ziying's residence relayed vital intelligence. He had made contact with the King of Jiang. This was an event that should have transpired years later, now hastened by my relentless provocation. I had placed a pawn on the board. Since he chose the King of Jiang, let us commence with him. I inquired of the attendant beside me, "What is the status of the investigation I commissioned?" "Your Highness, as anticipated, you are indeed perceptive. We have already established contact with those wrong scholars. They are currently en route to the capital. They express profound gratitude for your wisdom, Your Highness. The King of Jiang, wielding military power, harbors grand ambitions. While my brother was still the crown prince, the king was one of his major rivals. Had it not been for a battlefield mishap that left the king with a wounded leg, preventing him from claiming the throne, we might not know who would currently occupy that seat. As the emperor ascended the throne, the Prince of Jiang harbored treacherous intentions and refused to relinquish military authority, resulting in his confinement by the emperor within the capital. In a previous life, the emperor had intended to proceed with caution. However, he was tragically misled by the scoundrel Du Ziying, which allowed the Prince of Jiang to escape the capital. Subsequently, the prince led his army to the gates of the city, where Du Ziying opened the city gates and invited the troops in. Thus, he trampled over the corpses of both myself and the emperor, ascending to the heights of power as a king and minister. Having tasted the intoxicating flavor of power, how could he endure such mockery and humiliation for me? It was my intention to provoke him, leading him down a path of self-destruction. I gathered evidence, vowing to deliver a fatal blow. You previously claimed that Du Ziying could assist me in eliminating the Chancellor and the Prince of Jiang, as he possesses such talents. Yet, you have treated him with such disdain and forced him into the service of the Prince of Jiang. Recently, you have also employed my influence to investigate the Minister of Rights, assembling a group of scholars to travel to the capital. My eldest princess has become increasingly enigmatic to me. The emperor, of course, could not comprehend this. It was a clash between two reborn souls. We both knew the events that were destined to transpire, engaging in a fierce battle of wits and strategies, each determined to crush the other beneath their feet. However, it appeared that I held the upper hand. As I ground ink for the emperor in the imperial study, I observed the perplexed expression on his face and rose to massage his shoulders. "Does your majesty wish to trust me?" The emperor patted my hand. "You have accompanied me through the most challenging of times. When all others turned to the Prince of Jiang, only you remained steadfast in your support. I naturally trust you." Xiaohua. A smile curled at the corners of my lips, In my past life, the emperor had protected me throughout, granting me the glory of being the eldest princess. This time, I would not allow anyone to harm him. Your Majesty, Du Ziying has been allied with the Prince of Jiang for several months now, and the stage is nearly set for a grand performance. I had a spy embedded in my palace relay information to Du Ziying, and soon enough, he began to take action. In my previous life, Du Ziying, a confidant of the Prince of Jiang, had thrived under the prince's patronage, leveraging his knowledge of the prince and the foresight that came with rebirth to resolve numerous challenges. Despite being despised by the monarch, everyone acknowledged his favored status with the prince. Many respected him because of his connection to the prince. Yet this man, who enjoyed such favor, would deliver a devastating betrayal to the prince. Just as I submitted my memorial to the emperor, he presented his own document immediately thereafter. It was filled with the names of ministers secretly allied with the Prince of Jiang, alongside evidence of the prince's treasonous correspondence. He knelt before the emperor, lamenting his plight. Although I serve the Prince of Jiang, it is out of necessity. The eldest princess has sown discord, causing your Majesty to view me with suspicion. I know that I must achieve something significant to regain your Majesty's trust. Thus, I have endured humiliation and remained hidden under the prince's banner, solely to gather evidence to bring him down and alleviate your Majesty's greatest concern. I dare not speak of my own hardships, but the eldest princess has gone too far. She not only humiliated me with a maid, but also forced me into a marriage with a handful of ashes.
Now,
she presents a memorial to slander me and accuse me of colluding with the Prince of Jiang. Your Majesty must not heed the words of a mere woman. Please see the truth. The authority of the eldest princess was built upon the emperor's favor. He had climbed to power over the prince, manipulating the relationship between myself and the emperor to sever my roots. In the imperial study, my triumphant laughter echoed. I threw my memorial at his face, and as his furious gaze turned toward me, a single, light-hearted remark drained the color from his smug expression. Is a title obtained through deceit truly secure? Bai Shuxing? Du Ziying was not his true name, Bai Shuxing was. 3 months prior, Bai Shuxing had been riding high on the coattails of the Prince of Jiang. Even the Chancellor's residence had invited his wife, Li Lianer, to the birthday banquet for the legitimate daughter. Bai Shuxing, burdened by the marriage issue, found it difficult to hold his head high before the civil and military officials, while his wife, Li Lianer, could scarcely expect a favorable reception as his spouse.
Guanin,
the legitimate daughter of the Chancellor, was surrounded by admirers, targeting the cornered Li Lianer with barbed comments. A scholar as talented as Du Ziying should have a better match. After achieving the highest honors, he remains devoted to a simple country girl. Such loyalty is truly touching. I noted the barely concealed jealousy hidden within Guanin's contemptuous gaze directed at Li Lianer. It was hardly surprising. Bai Shuxing's striking appearance and charismatic presence could easily captivate even the most worldly of women. Miss Gu, your envy is palpable. I take great pleasure in fostering bonds among people. Shall I approach the emperor to seek a decree to unite you with the top scholar? I intervened on Li Lianer's behalf, and she cast me a surprised glance. Guanin, aware of my past antics, paled in fear, retreating in dismay.
now,
Only Li Lianer and I remained. I scrutinized her, making her increasingly uncomfortable as she trembled. After a long pause, I finally spoke. The emperor once considered a marriage between myself and the top scholar and had even dispatched someone to investigate Du Ziying's background. His humble origins, marked by the death of his elderly mother, spurred him to study diligently until he achieved the highest honors. The investigation yielded no mention of you as his wife. My insinuation was clear. Li Lianer collapsed to the ground, her face as pale as a sheet, her body trembling like a leaf. I know nothing, I swear. Please spare me, Your Highness. I truly know nothing. I smiled coyly. In my past life, he had blamed me for his wife's suicide. It seemed there was more to the story than met the eye. I have gathered information regarding the scholar and understand your predicament. The top scholar has committed a grave offense against the emperor. Now, the only path to survival lies before you. Will you seize it? Li Lianer's mouth opened and closed, her initial panic giving way to a newfound determination as she knelt at my feet. Your Highness, I accuse my husband Bai Shuxing of purchasing his title and usurping the position of the top scholar. I am willing to expose his crimes. Please grant me my life. I had planted the most secretive of my pieces near Bai Shuxing, and now she knelt before the emperor. Under Bai Shuxing's ashen countenance, she revealed his true identity. My husband is not Du Ziying. His name is Bai Shuxing. I know he lacks the talent to deserve the title of top scholar. Since hearing of his success in our hometown, I have lived in constant fear. I beg the emperor to forgive my deceit and spare my life. I presented my memorial to the emperor, pulling out a petition signed by those who had been wronged by Bai Shuxing's usurpation of the title. The contents of the memorial did not accuse Bai Shuxing of colluding with the Prince of Jiang, but rather provided evidence of manipulation within the imperial examination system by the Minister of Rights, including evidence of bribery and corruption. Notably, Du Ziying's name was prominently featured. After reading the memorial, the emperor's hands trembled with fury. You dare to usurp even the title of top scholar, Bai Shuxing? You not only deceived the Prince of Jiang, but also dared to deceive me. Believing that the card of the Prince of Jiang would secure his safety, Bai Shuxing now resembled a stray dog, crawling on the ground and clutching the emperor's trousers in desperation. Your Majesty, please spare my life in light of my efforts to bring down the Prince of Jiang. I continued with deliberate calmness. The Minister of Rights is a protege of Chancellor Gu. I have heard that you had some dealings with Chancellor Gu's legitimate daughter, Guanin, when you arrived in the capital for the examinations. At the birthday banquet I attended, it seemed that Miss Gu harbored deep feelings for you. As a humble commoner, not only have you ingratiated yourself with the Minister of Rights, but you have also usurped the title of top scholar. Bai Shuxing, all you need to do is name the mastermind behind this scheme before the officials, and the emperor will spare your life. Bai Shuxing abruptly lifted his gaze towards me, and in his eyes, I discerned a glimmer of mockery. He was no fool. At this moment, there was little he did not comprehend. My intentions were not solely to exact revenge upon him, stripping him of all he held dear, but also to exploit him, to drain his final vestiges of worth to pave the way for myself and my royal brother. A flash of fierce resentment crossed his eyes as he gritted his teeth, declaring, "This matter is solely the doing of this humble servant. There is no one behind me directing my actions." I raised an eyebrow, finding it unsurprising that a petty man like Bai Shuxing would make such a choice. I feigned sorrow. Your Majesty, the true top scholar, Du Ziying, dedicated years to the pursuit of academic excellence, only to have his accolades stripped away and ultimately be met with death. I beseech you to uphold justice for the scholars of the realm. The past few months had been tumultuous. First, the treachery of King Jiang was unveiled. With irrefutable evidence at hand, King Jiang and his clandestine supporters were uprooted by my royal brother. At my suggestion, King Jiang's head was displayed upon the city walls as a warning to all, a testament to the emperor's authority. Subsequently, the shocking case of the false top scholar unfolded. The Minister of Rights had manipulated the imperial examinations, engaging in bribery and corruption so brazenly that even the title of top scholar was up for sale. Numerous ministers fell from grace, severely weakening the influence of the Prime Minister. Though not as devastating as the downfall of King Jiang, it nonetheless inflicted considerable damage upon the Prime Minister's faction. Meanwhile, the true top scholar, Du Ziying, who had been wronged and replaced by Bai Shuxing, was imprisoned, destined for execution after autumn. Bai Shuxing's role in the downfall of King Jiang earned him no favor. Rather, his concealment of the truth incited the emperor's wrath. I made a point to visit him. He was in a pitiful state, barely clinging to life, his body marred with wounds, save for his face, which I deemed necessary for future use. "How did you come to know?" he croaked, his lips pale and voice weak. The Ministry of Punishment had countless methods of torture, and I was assured of his suffering in their hands. I understood the question he posed, until my tragic demise in my past life. The evidence of his impersonation as the top scholar remained undisclosed, leaving me to ponder how I had unraveled the truth in this life. "Of course, it was your revelation of having a wife in our previous life," I replied leisurely, applying honey to his skin. His eyes widened in realization of my intentions. Yet bound and feeble, he could do little. "Had you not informed me of your wife before your demise, I might have remained in ignorance all my life. You claim to share a profound love with your wife, enduring humiliation and hardship for years to exact revenge. However, in our previous life, my brother had sent someone to investigate, revealing that Du Ziying pursued knowledge with unwavering devotion and had never taken a wife. I continued, in this life, I followed the thread of clues and uncovered the truth. Thanks to your efforts to save your wife, I confirmed my suspicions. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. You longed across 2 lifetimes to be with your beloved wife, yet ironically, the very woman you endeavored to rescue has become the stone that weighs you down. Du Ziying's chest heaved as he coughed up blood. I continued my meticulous application of honey, savoring the moment. Why did your wife choose to end her life in our previous life? You know the truth better than I. Yet, in your desperation, you shifted the blame onto me, using genuine emotions as a facade. How utterly laughable. You were the one who coveted power, entangled with the Prime Minister's daughter to achieve the title of top scholar, receiving a fragrance pouch from the princess during your public parade. Your greed driving you to seek even greater heights. You feared losing your status as top scholar, and upon becoming a prince consort, you schemed to use the Prime Minister's daughter to ensnare him. Only with my assistance did you gain favor before the emperor. Given your capabilities, the position of minister is your ultimate limit, yet you remained unsatisfied. When King Jiang extended an olive branch, you seized the opportunity, aiding him in his escape from the capital and later opening the city gates to allow his troops entry. I glared at him. You ascended to power through despicable means. And had it not been for that wretched Billion shielding your true nature, you would never have succeeded so effortlessly. In this life, without my backing, what do you think you are worth? Do you still dare to covet the bond between my brother and me? How absurd. Once I finished applying the honey, I took a handkerchief to meticulously wipe my fingers, observing the insects drawn to the sweet scent from the shadows. I knew well the taste of such a torment. A dull knife grates against the flesh, inflicting greater anguish, and I intended to ensure he found himself in a state of living death, unable to seek salvation or find solace in death. I had endured suffering in my past life, and now I would repay him in kind. Just as I was about to turn and leave, I paused. I almost forgot to mention, the wife you so desperately sought to save has, after exposing your crimes, been spared by my grace. After bestowing upon her a bounty of gold, I hear she is taken up with a wealthy merchant, living quite comfortably post-marriage. I engaged in a game of chess with my royal brother. Xiaohua is truly a genius. How splendid it would be if she were to assume a male guise to alleviate the burdens of state affairs. I reminded him, Your Majesty, the game is only halfway through, and we have the Prime Minister's estate looming nearby. My brother inquired eagerly, What clever scheme does Xiaohua propose this time? I placed a piece upon the board. This time, Xiaohua wishes to request something from Your Majesty. The Emperor, grateful for Xiaohua's contributions to the cause of justice for the scholars, bestowed upon her the military orders to command the Imperial Guard. Once merely a favored princess, she had now formally entered the arena of power, joining the intricate dance of court politics. All eyes were fixed upon me, with the Prime Minister's estate being the first to test the waters. An elegantly penned invitation to a poetry banquet was presented before me. At the event, men and women were seated separately. I found myself surrounded by a throng of noble ladies, while the hostess, Gu Ainen, seemed somewhat neglected. When her gaze fell upon me, I could not miss the unmistakable glimmer of hatred. I had ensured her lover faced imprisonment, his life hanging by a thread, and now she regarded me as her adversary. I raised an eyebrow at her, and she hastily suppressed her animosity, forcing a smile as she approached to toast me. Your Highness, leading the Imperial Guard to safeguard the peace of the capital as a woman is truly commendable. I admire your spirit. Might I request a toast to express my respect? I accepted the drink she offered, detecting an unusual aroma wafting from the sake, and smiled knowingly. Gu Ainen, seeing that I merely toyed with the cup, grew colder in her demeanor. As the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter, is it so difficult for the princess to grant me this small courtesy? Her face hardened, and I commanded my guards to seize her. In the shocked silence that followed, she was forcibly brought to her knees before me. What are you doing? She protested, struggling against her captors. The commotion drew the attention of many. This wine laced with Hehuan powder, I have no desire to partake. It is better suited for you. My words struck like a thunderbolt. The soldiers obeyed my command, pinning Gu Ainen's head and forcing the tainted wine down her throat. Within moments, a telltale flush of unnatural red spread across her terrified face. Those witnessing the scene held various thoughts, and even those who initially sought to champion her cause fell silent. Gu Ainen, humiliated and furious, fled the scene. Attempting to ensnare the princess, she found herself publicly exposed and forced to consume the drugged wine. Thus, the reputation of Gu Anan, the prime minister's daughter, was utterly ruined. Any suitor who might have sought to ally with the prime minister's house now hesitated, wary of crossing me. After all, to offend me was to offend the emperor. It was rumored that Gu Anan had killed several gossipy servants in her household in a fit of rage, yet such actions could not quell the storm brewing in the city. The prime minister had only this one daughter, and with her reputation shattered, she was of marriageable age. Her prospects now dimmed. My brother mused, during court sessions these days, the old prime minister has worn a perpetual scowl. Though it brings satisfaction, it barely scratches the surface of his power. My brother remained puzzled by my strategic play. Gu Anan, having lost her reputation, has gone to the prison to see by Shushing. My words were disjointed, further perplexing my elder brother. Your Majesty, I have humiliated the Minister of State. They will undoubtedly seek vengeance. If that is the case, why not acquiesce to their desires and invite disaster upon myself? I made another move, deepening the enigma of the game. Soon after, my brother fell into the water, succumbing to the cold and illness, leaving him bedridden. With no emperor in the court, the Minister of State began to act with impunity. In the court, he interrogated me. On that day, the princess accompanied His Majesty without any attendants by his side, and inexplicably he fell into the water. Can the princess provide an explanation? I toyed with the military token in my hand. Are you implying that I pushed His Majesty into the water? The minister's gaze darkened as he observed the token. The imperial physician diagnosed His Majesty with merely a chill. Yet the incessant administration of medicinal concoctions has only served to weaken him further. I took the liberty of intercepting a potion sent from the princess's residence, and upon inspection, I found it to be problematic. He presented the potion before the assembly, his wrinkled face brimming with arrogance. The physician has confirmed that this potion was laced with poison. If consumed daily, it would gradually sap His Majesty's vitality. Do you insinuate that I wished to harm my brother? I interrupted him coldly. The minister hesitated momentarily. The bond between the princess and His Majesty is well known to be profound. I would not dare to speculate recklessly. However, the princess's current questionable status and her command over the imperial guard renders her susceptible to gossip. As His Majesty's condition worsens, I, as the head of the officials, must assume responsibility. I kindly request the princess to temporarily entrust the military token to me, which will be returned once His Majesty's health is restored. The minister's cunning eyes glimmered with ambition. I smiled without a hint of warmth as I placed the token into his hands. Allow me to impart a word of caution. Minister, greed is akin to a serpent attempting to swallow an elephant. One must be wary of choking on their own avarice. I found myself confined within the princess's residence. Yet the spies I had embedded continued to relay fresh intelligence. Though I was temporarily confined, my awareness remained sharp. To bring about one's downfall, one must first incite their arrogance. It would not be long before the minister's demise approached. However, more pressing than that was the arrival of Bai Shushing. Bai Shushing surrounded my residence with troops. This time, he did not possess the same grandeur as in his previous life. His legs had been broken, and he was pushed into my presence by Gu Anan. You are the one who incited the minister to rebel behind the scenes, I stated calmly, confirming my suspicion. The soldiers brandished their gleaming swords towards me. After months of separation, I beheld Bai Shushing, now a pitiful figure in a wheelchair, his face twisted with glee. Princess, did you believe that relying on the emperor and wielding the military token would grant you perpetual security? With a mere stroke of cunning, I have seized your token and eroded your brother's trust. I was not surprised, responding with sarcasm. Only you would resort to such despicable tactics as poisoning the medicinal concoction I sent. Bai Shushing, unashamed, took pride in his actions. What matters is its efficacy, regardless of its morality. Though there were some setbacks, you ultimately fell into my hands as you did in your previous life. The outcome will mirror the past. I shall ransack your residence, silence you, and render your existence a living hell. His eyes burned with venomous resentment. I scrutinized him, and Gu Anan with an appraising gaze. In your previous life, you were embraced by the beautiful Bai Lian, clad in official regalia, a sword at your side, exuding authority. Now, you are battered and broken, pushed forth by a woman of ill repute. How can you compare? You ought to thank me. Had I not intervened at the banquet, the daughter of the minister would have remained reliant solely on your charm. A disreputable pretender and a fallen minister's daughter. You two are a perfect match. Guanin, having never endured such humiliation, stamped her foot in anger. Bai Shuxing's neck veins bulged. Silence. A defeat is a defeat. I shall rise to greatness, while you will languish in a dungeon for the rest of your days. Seize the princess. Yet, no one heeded his command. What are you waiting for? I stifled a yawn, weary of the charade. I drew forth the genuine military token and commanded the soldiers behind him. Arrest the traitorous minister and his accomplices, and bring them before his majesty for judgment. The soldiers kicked Bai Shuxing from his wheelchair, while Guanin screamed as she was pinned to the ground. The situation had swiftly reversed. What is happening? As I watched him struggle, I offered a clarifying explanation. The emperor's illness was a ruse. The token the minister possesses is counterfeit. This was all a trap set by my brother and me. I must thank you for your encouragement to the minister. Otherwise, how could such a cautious and timid man have been so easily ensnared? The palace eunuchs arrived with news from the court. Your Highness, the minister has united with the remnants of the Jiangwang faction to stage a coup, and they have all been executed. His Majesty commands you to lead the Imperial Guard to eradicate the remnants. Any who resist shall be dealt with on the spot to ensure the peace of the capital. Upon hearing this, Bai Shuxing collapsed to the ground. His sole ally was now dead. All his scheming had come to naught. The one who should be groveling on the ground like a defeated dog, begging for mercy, is you, Bai Shuxing. I gazed down at him, relishing his despair. With the path to glory within my grasp, I sought to plunge him into the depths of despair at the peak of his arrogance. This time, he would find it impossible to ascend from the abyss. Bai Shuxing had harbored ulterior motives. The list of Jiangwang's forces he submitted was incomplete. He had used Guanin as a bridge to connect with the minister, trading the remnants of Jiangwang's influence for assistance in feigning his death in prison. Adopting a new identity, he joined the minister's ranks, becoming Guanin's inconspicuous fiancé. As I flourished in the court, he lurked in the shadows. Utilizing his memories from his past life and Guanin's backing, he gradually gained the minister's trust. He incited the minister to rebel, aware that only by replacing the emperor could he secure his own position in the court. When the minister absorbed the Jiangwang forces for himself, the emperor's declining health stirred his ambitions, and acquiring the military token only fueled his desire. Under Bai Shuxing's persistent encouragement, the minister finally revealed his true ambitions. My brother and I seized upon this revelation, swiftly executing him. As dawn broke and the morning light dimmed, the chaos of that tumultuous night came to an end. My vengeance was fulfilled, and my brother had eliminated two significant threats, solidifying his reign. The moment was ripe, and the future looked promising. The tale concludes here. Thank you for listening. I look forward to our next story together.